getting laws that are already in existence on our books. Mr. Speaker, I have a few concerns about the bill, and fortunately or unfortunately, last week I was not able to participate in an important debate about the deployment of police officers to Haiti. Mr. Speaker, had I gotten that opportunity, in fact, one of the issues that we wanted to address was the adequacy of our own security forces to deal with the security problems and challenges in this country. I personally believe that the question of cattle rustling is a security problem, and that because the Constitution of this Republic places the responsibility of ensuring the security of all wananchi and their belongings and property on the national government, I think any legislation that is directed against addressing a security matter must be alive to that demarcation between the national government roles and the county government roles. I have perused through the bill, Mr. Speaker. I am afraid that we might be saddling the county governments with the responsibility that is essentially the responsibility of the national government. We have been promised by the current regime that in fact they are going to rout out the problem of cattle rustling, especially in the North Rift. I think there's been an operation that has been ongoing, if I'm not wrong, for the past 6 months or something. And Mr. Speaker, that is what we expect from the national government to be able to root out the problem. So that if I were here when that debate was being had, I would have argued that in fact, if you look at the ratio of police officers to the population in this country, and you compare it with the recommended ratio of police officers to the population by the United Nations, Mr. Speaker, we are lagging behind. We simply do not have the resources. And I would want that the national government focuses on ensuring there is enough security resources in areas that are prone to cattle rustling in order to deal with the problem. Mr. Speaker, if you look at some of the provisions in the Act, and I want to thank Senator Manguo because he has addressed, first of all, the requirement of registration of a brand. I would support him, Mr. Speaker, and Senator Cherargei, I hope you are persuaded, that that responsibility should not be transferred to the hustler farmer, somebody who has one goat, one cow, to come up with a brand for his cows and then have to register it. Let the county governments be the ones responsible for the registration of those brands. And I know Kenyans are creative, but Mr. Speaker, it's going to be an onerous task for every single farmer in this country to come up with a unique identifier for all his cattle. Mr. Speaker, then the question of fees. You know, for me, I am very sensitive these days. It appears like we are looking for every single excuse to levy new taxes and levies on Kenyans. Even registering a goat now, Mr. Speaker, the Act provides that the farmer, that small farmer who has one cow, has to pay a fee. Why can this thing be a government service, Honorable Cherargei, if we convince you? Because if you look at the cumulative burden that has been put on the shoulders of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, some of these things, I don't think we are getting to a breaking point. I'm just happy that Senator Cherargei in his bill has spared chicken farmers, that we will not have to register our chicken. Let those ones who have cows fight this battle, but we'll fight this battle for them. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I believe that, or I suspect, that there could be some replication of already existing laws. Senator Cherargei luckily is a lawyer like me. He understands that, for instance, the offense that has been created under Section 18, the proposed Section 18 of this Act, which is essentially theft of livestock, already exists on the penal code. Mr. Speaker, the definition of theft under the penal code is wide enough to include anything capable of being stolen. So that it is cows, it is money, it is anything that is capable of being stolen. I do not know, or would like to be convinced, whether creating a specific law on livestock is the right thing to do in light of the fact that this law already exists. The same thing, Mr. Speaker, if you look at Section 18, subsection 2, it creates what is essentially a mirror of the existing laws on robbery with violence. That if you steal anything and under that particular moment of theft, you are armed with an offensive weapon or you use a threat of force, it automatically graduates the crime from a simple crime into a capital crime. So that, Mr. Speaker, that would be a problem. The same goes to Section 19. There's already an existing law on trespass. Senator Cherargei is aware of the law. And then, Mr. Speaker, my greatest problem is Section 34. And I wish on this particular section, Mr. Speaker, that we go together, because I believe that the Constitution is clear in assigning jurisdiction over certain crimes, the jurisdiction of the courts over certain crimes. I know for a fact, Mr. Speaker, that capital punishment ordinarily are things that are dealt with by the High Court. So that if you say that it is a capital offense for which you are liable to be jailed for life, to steal an animal whilst armed, or to commit violence in the course of the crime, and then you say, Honorable Speaker, that offences under this act or under any rules made thereunder shall be tried by any subordinate court, I believe that you will be interfering